Hello everyone, I'm here today to share with you my latest project for Vectoria Designs. Now I've done one before with Alice in Wonderland, the Wonderland Adventures kit, and I enjoyed making that one. So when they asked me if I'd like to make another one, I thought I would. And they asked if I'd want to work with the Wizard School kit. And I've got to admit, I'm a big fan of fictional wizard, and my two boys are also quite into the series as well, into the films and the books. And so when they said, do you want to do Wizarding World, it was a definite yes for me. And the project today is actually one that my sons requested. They wanted a book, but they also wanted somewhere to keep some of their wizarding toys and things like that. So it is a book. Now I haven't decorated the front yet because they're going to have their names on them, but I can't reveal their names. So they will have a chance to decorate a bit more. So I've kept the front plain for now. But then when you open it, we get these fantastic wizarding newspaper papers. And there's 3 compartments inside them. One where they're going to keep their wand, and they're into their building blocks as well. So on the bottom, we've got a space for their wizard characters to be stored as well. And when I take this book out, you'll see the papers again from that Wizard School kit. It's just amazing. But obviously it doesn't have to be for toys and things like that. If you just want to make the book, you can obviously put some sweet treats or anything in these compartments. Like I said, they wanted one to hold all their little tiny figures, so that was why I did this. And the size was just actually determined by my chipboard, which was A4. So I really maximised the A4 to get the most out of it, and the printed papers. And then, of course, we're using the junk journal papers to make a little album as well. And I've used some photo slots just so that we can still see the papers, but also have that option for putting in our photos. So that's the project. Oh, let me show you the back as well, because it does tie around. I got another of the papers in the background. So that's the project, which I'm going to show you a tutorial for. Now the papers I've printed onto ice paper. It's a matte 190 GSM, and I just buy it from Amazon. And I find this gives a good quality print, but isn't overly expensive like some of the others. So let's have a look at what we get in the kit. We've got some images. Now when I said I haven't finished the front, I'm planning on using one of these name tags. Got some lovely wizarding tags there, perfect for decorating your albums. And some ticket details there. And this is just one sheet of the ephemera. I don't think this is all you get. There are more. I've just printed the one just to show you the sort of things you get. And I do like their cutout images, because if I can zoom in closely, you can see they've got a bleed line, which means you don't have to fussy cut so much. You can just leave an outline nicely and just follow the shadowy bit there, as opposed to having to cut into each of those little bits. You can just skim around a bit quicker. So I think a few of those will be added to the covers by the boys as well. And you also get 3 sizes of junk journal pages. So these are the regular ones. You can see Vectoria Designs there. And, oh, there is, yeah, subscribe to the mailing list, because you do get some freebies now and again. So that's the junk journal page. I like this one with the magical powers one. You can just see the quality of the print. And this is just printed on my Epson Eco printer on that ice paper. Can I get in on that owl? Look at all the details there. And some more. I do like the magnifying glass. Obviously we needed some potions. And you also get some plain pages as well, which is handy as well if you wanted to stamp or something yourself. And then the second size then is slightly larger because we don't have this margin. So I've used this on the front cover of my albums, and then the smaller ones to decorate the pages. So we've got to cut, oh, it's the same one. And you also get the 2 pages on one sheet. So that's handy for doing little mini books, because you can just print 2 at a time much quicker. And of course you need some backing papers. You need to come in to see the details on these. That is outstanding. And then that's the one I use in the background of my box. There are just so many tiny details in this, it's unbelievable. And then a bit more of a colourful one. But when I say colourful, just some blue and some of the darker browns. And I do like a good map. And you get some plain papers as well. So I printed out a selection of everything for making my box. So now you know what's coming up in the kit. Let's grab our chipboard and get going. So here are the chipboard pieces you need to cut for your project. Now I've used 1.5mm chipboard here, and start off with a base, which is going to be 10.5 by 7.75 inches. And then you'll notice I've already taped some of these just to save some time later, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do that on the base in a second. You're going to need 2 long pieces for your box to go up this way. So our base was 10.5 inches. So our long side is actually going to be 10.5 plus whatever width your chipboard is. So mine was 1.5mm. So I've just added 1.5mm on, or I just go 1/16 of an inch bigger. So 10.5 plus 1/16 of an inch by 2 inches tall, and we need 2 of those. Then you need your short sides. Again, our box is 7.75 across, so we're just going to add on that little fraction, the width of our chipboard, the thickness, by 2 inches. Then we need our vertical divider. Our vertical piece is 8.5 by 1.75, so it's not as tall as the main box side. And then our horizontal one is going to be 7.75 by 1.75. And then we'll have a little wrap around. So we're going to need 2 covers, 8.25 by 11, and a spine, which is 2 inches by 11. So I don't need them for the main box as of yet. So I'm going to put them aside and just bring in my base, sides, and my dividers. I'm going to show you how to use the tape method here, but you can also use construction strips. Now a construction strip is just a piece of cardstock which is 1 inch wide. scored down the middle, so it's at 1/2 inch on your scoreboard, and just tape put on both sides, and then you just fold it in half, like so. Now I'm going to be using construction tape here, but I'm also using the tape method. Now the tape I use is frame tape or tiger tape by CoolKatz, and it's like a papery type texture to it. So it's not glossy or anything, but it's also quite strong because it's used for framing photos, photo frames and things like that. So that's the tape I've got. But as I said, you can use construction strips instead. So before I start, I'm actually going to do a couple of marks on my base. Now from the right hand side, I want to come in 2 inches. So I've got my square ruler here. I think these are quite cheap on Amazon. I'm just going to mark 2 inches in and 2 inches in. Just line them up. And I'm also going to do the same from the bottom of my base. So again, at 2 inches. You can see I really do try and keep measurements as easy as I can. There we are. So that is where my divides are going to go, leaving a nice big space in the top left hand corner for my album. So how did I wrap these in tape? So here's the tape. I need to try and find the end. Here we are. And I'm just going to pull a nice long piece. I'm just going to hook it on this so it doesn't roll. And I'm going to take my chipboard upright and I'm going to place it down the center of the tape. Now you don't have to be precise at all. So I've just started on the base about halfway across and I've just placed it on the center, and I'm just going to tip it over and keep it going down the center. Get some contact. Now pull it across. Just be gentle because you don't want the corner of a chipboard to tear your tape. But it is quite strong stuff. And if you do tear it there, that's okay. You just cut it off at that corner and you just carry on. We're just going to wrap the whole piece in tape. Now I'm using my Tim Holtz titanium scissors here. Just helps cut without being so sticky. There you go. So right now our tape is still sort of upright, so you need to be quite careful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors. I'm just going to cut a little V, a little notch towards each corner of my cover. Now remove that little V of tape from your scissors each time, otherwise it will stick to another piece of the tape and then you won't get your adhesion later on. Now this is easier when you're not trying to get it on camera. Because you can twist and turn it the way you want. So I've done this side. You've got to be really careful that you're holding the center, not squashing down your tape, because it is sticking up on both sides, remember. Here we go. I'm going to do the other side as well. Make sure I remove these notches. And the last one. So now I've done a notch on all 8 corners, the 4 on this side and 4 on the back. I'm just going to hold it upright to start on my shorter length, and I'm just going to press it down, make sure it's stuck down, and then from the center I'm just gently going to pinch it over the edge. So it's not touching down yet, I'm just getting the contact to get that nice crisp edge. And then once I've got the contact, I start in the center and just work my way out. And again on the other side, I'm just going to press it down to get that contact, start to gently pinch it, see if I can get a better angle for you. You see I'm just pinching it onto the edge. It still hasn't stuck down because I haven't touched that bit. And then from the center, work out. Now you may end up with a little crease or something, and the glory of this tape is it doesn't matter. And the last one. Now I've done this a lot. Don't believe that it looked this neat the first time I tried it. It took practice. It took time. And if I show you now, I've put some creases in there. I'm just going to take my Teflon tool and I'm just going to iron them out, so to speak. And you'll see those creases are now totally flat. Let's see if I got any. See, I've got some here. So I'm just going to iron them out. And you get a nice crisp corner all the way around. And a nice smooth flat edge then for decorating on. So that now is my base, and I did exactly the same with my horizontal strips and my sides. So it's exactly the same process every time, wrapping around, cutting out the notches and then ironing them all down. And now we're going to start building the box itself. So I'm going to start on the long box. And again, I'm going to use my tape to construct. I'm going to take a piece of tape just a bit longer than my base. Now I've got to make sure, usually it doesn't matter when I'm doing my boxes, but because I'm putting those dividers, I've got those lines, I need to work on the back. Now you can see, I've just lined it up, so it's half onto the tape, but I've still got some sticky there showing up. I'll do the same on this side. So I'm just going to lift this up and get it stuck down there. I'm going to do the same top and bottom as well. So that's long enough. Let's just, might be easy if I just move around. There we go. And again. Here. So now I've got my base all taped around. And I'm just going to take my scissors. This is where your titanium ones come in handy because they don't stick as much. I'm just going to cut, not a very sharp angle, just so it's a little bit more than 90, but not too much. So cut towards the corner at a very slight angle. So that would be straight in line with the base. I just want to angle it just a tiny bit. There we are. That just saves some of the bulk on the corners. Okay, and again. And the last one. It's quite hard to get things in shot here because this base is actually quite big. Okay, so there we have our base now with the 4 sides taped up. I'm going to take one of my long strips. Now remember, this is slightly longer than our base. So when I line it up at the bottom, it is actually going to overhang just the tiniest amount at the top. So I've just stuck it, butted it up against my base and placed it down upright, down onto my tape. I can then fold it down and you'll have that tiny gap there. So why have we got that little extra bit? Well, when we come to do the next one, it'll butt up against that and give you a nice even join. So this time, with my short side, I'm going to line it up to my base, so ignore the long side, line it up to the edge of the base, make sure it's touching all along, and it'll overhang here. It's hard to see because everything's black on black for you. There we are. So it's touching my base, and then as I let it drop down, it'll open up that tiny gap here, ready for bringing them back up. And you see that extra bit then makes that join match. So let's just keep going. Same process, line it up on this side, make sure it's touching all the way, it's upright, I've got some adhesion and I'm just laying it down flat. And then the final one, the last short side, there we go, and down. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to bring the whole thing up. And we're going to take our tape and just tape these outer edges. So you can see, there is absolutely no glue whatsoever in this method. So it's a much cleaner style. So we're going to bring them. I'm going to put the tape down, and then I'm going to fold it up, and I'm just going to cut a V shape like so. Try to show you better once I've done one of the sides, it'll be much easier to show. Okay, so this is overlapping this way. So I'm going to take my tape and you could put, what you can do is put it on upside down so the sticky bit is up, so you can get a piece the right height. Fold it, obviously sticky side outwards, and cut towards the fold at an angle. So you get a nice mitre. And now I'm going to put it on. Put the point towards the bottom. Make my join and stick it over. So I've got one here as well. So you don't have to do the mitered corners because you are going to cover most of it, but it is a nice little finishing touch. That's where it's overlapped is the top, so this other one tucks in underneath. Hold it there. If you wanted to put a dab of glue on that edge, you can do, but you don't need to. It doesn't need it. A bit long. Cut out the V's. Line it up. There we have your box all constructed. Now you can strengthen it even more by taking your tape. So this is the open bit now. I'm working on the top. So you can strengthen the joints by going all the way around. So you've got half the tape touching the chipboard and half just exposed. Just cut it off. And then cut very thin V shapes towards the joint. And the last one. And then just fold them over. And then that's just sort of wrapped the entire top into one long piece of the tape just for strength. And if you do have a little crease like I've got here, you can just squeeze it out again with your Teflon tool. Just get it all burnished down. Make sure it's all stuck. And that's your box. If you just wanted to make a simple box, that would be where you stop. You could make it into a drawer or something like that. But that's the basics of how to build a box using the tape method. As I said, we're going to go one step further today. We're going to put some dividers in. So I'm going to bring in my vertical and my horizontal strips. Now I did say you can construct the box using these strips as well. You would just need to put the tape on the other side. So double-sided tape would be inside, and where you have your two pieces of chipboard, you just take your construction strip and you can stick them together like that, and then you'd put extras on the top and things like that, and you can build it like that. And I know on the Vectoria Designs YouTube page there are examples of that method there. Right. So this is my construction strip now for putting in. Let's do the vertical one first. So I'm just going to cut a strip the length of my divider. And I'm just going to take my tape. I'm just taking a little bit off and folding it back, just in case I need to move it later on. And lining it up on the bottom of my Oh, let me expose a bit on this side as well. Just fold it back at a 90-degree angle. So it's stuck on both sides. This middle bit isn't stuck, so I can hold it in place as I just pull out my double-sided tape. And that'll help it now just to stand up on my box. So I'm just going to have a little mark. Now I didn't do this at the beginning because it isn't actually 2 inches because of that extra little bit. So here's my 2 inches, just so I've sort of got a rough guide of where my 2 inches is going to go. I want to put a construction strip on the other side as well. So let's just cut another one. This is how I just took it all off and sticking it on. Now this time it's a bit long on me, so let's just trim it. I'm just going to angle at the same time. Again, let's angle these two, just so I'm reducing the bulk in the joins. I'm just going to take one out, hold it, my sticky bit up, and I'm going to line it up, just touching on the top of the box, and I'm just lining up with that line I drew earlier. I'm going to press it down, fold it down. I can now take off the other one. And bring it up and press it down. So right now it's stuck to the bottom, but if I was to put something in, it would still fold. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some construction strips into this bit here. So these were 1 3/4 tall. So let's just cut it at 1 3/4. Here's where my join is, so I'm just going to angle it. So when I open it up, it looks like that. Again, that's just to reduce the bulk. I'm going to take both off this time, and I'm going to put it in place. And you can see I've just put that construction strip into there. I'm going to do another one now on this side. And just angle them. So just take it, place it into that corner and open it up. And we've got our vertical divide in place. Now when we do our horizontal one, I don't put my construction strip all the way across because it's going to knock onto there. So it's going to go there. So I've got to think of it as 2 separate pieces on that side. So I can do one full one on the bottom. Let's just fold it back. Let's just stick it onto there. You can see how it wasn't being precise with the measurements. And I'll need one just under 2 inches. which is just go slightly under, just so I don't bump into anything. Again, just miter it. And this time I'm going to place it on that line. And get my fingers in. Oh yeah, because I haven't stuck it down yet. Let's stick this one down first. So I'm using that line I drew, but also butting it up against this one. There we go. And just bring that bit up. I think I'm going to need one more construction strip so you can see how I make them. I'm just going to bring my trimmer in. I'm going to cut it at 1 inch. Your scoreboard, just go all the way down at half. So it's easier to make long strips and cut them to the size you need, rather than do lots of little ones. Now this is where I've sort of got the valley of my score line. So I'm going to work on the back. Put tape each side of that score line. There we go. Just bring back my base. So I'm just going to roughly measure to there. Fold it down. You can use your burnishing tool. And now just slot it into that space. Take off the other strip, bring it up to meet it. So we still haven't got anything holding them here. So they're stuck down nicely. Now we need just some strips. Or are they 1 3/4? So just make them a little bit shorter. That's 2 inches. So there's 1 3/4. So take off from both sides, slot it in, bring them to where I want them, and stick. And again, let's use this shorter one for now. There's 1 3/4. Take off both sides, tuck it into the corner. There we go. And I'm going to do the same now on these two, so we're connecting them to the outer one. So, let's just use that as a template. Why didn't I just do that the other times? Place it in. One more there, and into the corner, open it out. I think I'll be able to get away with this one. Oh, where's the last one? Here we are, this one. Here. So that's then the box constructed, all ready to be decorated on the inside. Get rid of some of those tiny bits of tape. But we're going to cover it as well. So that's just my normal album cover. So if you've seen me covering an album before, let's just take the two covers. Now I'm going to do this in the album tutorial as well. So I might go quickly this time and I'll do it slower in the album one. So just going to put it down the middle of my tape on the two short sides and one long side. Cut it off at the end, just like we did with the base of the box. We're just going to cut those V's. On the other side. And this one. And then I just take my Teflon tool and burnish it all down. That's one cover done. Let's do the other one. Again, just placing it down the center on my short side. This is my long side. You'd obviously take a bit more time than me. The more precise you are, the better your finish. We're just going to get on with the tutorial here, don't we? Just like we did before, we're just making the contact on the two short sides first, getting a little bit and then pressing it down, burnishing, starting to maneuver it over. So you can see how quick, once you've done it a few times, you can get going pretty good. And then our spine, we're going to have some exposed there, so I'm just going to cover it in tape just to get a nice finish. So just cut it a little bit shorter than the width of your spine and flip it over. Again, a little bit shorter than your spine and half on and flip it over. Now this is where it's going to be slightly different to our albums now, because I don't want a double width gap between my cover and my spine this time. So I'm still going to put it on half on and half off like that. And usually I would put this on here, and you'll see me do this in the album one later on. And when you bring it up, you get a space which is twice the thickness of this. But today I want it as a box. So I'm going to bring this up at 90 degrees and I'm going to bring my spine to meet it. So then I've only got that single space there because I only want this gap to be the height of my box, because the spine is 2 inches and my box is 2 inches. So then they will lie one on top of each other by doing it like that. So you want your spine, so this is where this chipboard's coming, and then the spine is meeting it like so. And we're going to do the same now with the other side. Here's my tape. Longer than the height. So now I'm going to place my cover onto it, and I'm going to bring this up and just bring this to meet it. So I'm just lining up at the top. And open, stick them down, make sure they're spread apart. And close. So just to finish it off, I'm just going to cover my join there, because I am going to see a little bit of that later on after I've covered. This one I think you are going to see, but I think it's just the finishing touches part of me. There we go. And I'm just going to work them into that gap. There we are. So that now will be a little wrap around for the box. Like so. So let's take our strong double-sided tape again. I've just got the base of my box. So this tape is just going to hold it for now. But I'm going to bring in my Cosmic Shimmer Acrylic Glue. This is nice and strong and dries clear. This is what's going to hold it in place a bit more permanently. Okay, here's the glue. So when I'm putting it in now, make sure it's the right way up. I'm going to bring my spine up, and I'll have a gap at the top and the bottom, just a slight. So I want to try and even it up. And now the sunshine's come out just to make it a little bit trickier. So I'm centering it up against my spine edge there. So that is going to work. There we are. And now let's just, now if you've put it on and you find you've got a bit too much of a gap here, like I have, you're not going to get that contact to glue. So what we can do, we can take some of our chipboard and cut a piece which is just smaller than our spine. It doesn't have to be an exact size here, just smaller than 2 inches. Can you see how there's just like a slight hair's breadth between my spine and my box? Now if you just want your box to flip open like that, that's fine. I'd leave it as it is. But if you want your box to be hinged here, you might want to do this. So this is now smaller than my fine. No specified size. We're just adding a thickness in between. And this is not going to be seen at all. But if you left it with just the grey board edge, you would see. Now, I'm not worried it's too short because that's going to go on my bottom. I'm just going to notch here now. I'm not going to take time doing the V's because I said it's not going to be seen. Go into the corners. So that's all that black's doing, is hiding the raw edge so you don't see it down the left hand side. And I'm just going to take this and some glue. To here. So now when these come together, this is actually going to glue onto this. So I'm just going to put my tape onto there. So that's going to hold it for now. It's nice and strong as well, so it will hold it there while the glue takes hold. So now, when I bring them together, because of that little extra piece, I've got a bit of a closer finish there. Okay, so if you've got a gap, no panic. You can see why I taped up that extra piece so you wouldn't see that grey raw edge showing there or there. It's all nice and camouflage. So that's your box, all done and ready to decorate. Now, I haven't given exact dimensions for inside here because it really does depend on how you have affixed this and things, and if you're a little bit off. So it's easier to work off what you've done than to have a specific measurement. So let's start with a piece for the bottom of our base. So I'm going to go for this one again. And our base was 10.5 by 7.75. So I'm now going to cut this at, so it was 10.5, so I'm now going to go to 10.25, just a quarter of an inch. So, oh, actually, what I'm going to keep the top, I think. 10.25 by 7.5. Now that's how big it would be if I was just going to be placing it straight down into there. But obviously we've got those dividers to work around. So what I'm going to do, that hasn't had time to dry yet, so let me try and not to play with the box a bit too much. So our bottom divider was 2 inches up. So I'm just going to go, let's just measure. As I was saying, it's easier to measure from your box. Yeah, 1 3/4 from the bottom. Nearly trimmed it off the top. I would have had my papers upside down. Okay, so that piece now is going to glue inside the bottom. So I'm just going to bring in some of my black soot distress ink, and this will just take away that white raw edge. It also gives it a bit more of an aged effect, which works well with these papers. So that now is going to go in there and touch the divider. So I'm going to place it in. I've got a little black border down the left and right hand side and the bottom, but it's touching the top divider, the top of the divider here. Just going to take my tool and squeeze it in there. Now I'm going to do the same with my right hand piece here, 1 3/4. I think the sun has just decided to come out to play, so sorry for the shadows. Make sure it's the right way up. And we're going to glue this so it's touching my two dividers again. So I'm slotting it here. Now this piece now is going to be too wide to go there because of this divider bit here. So I'm just going to trim a little slither off there. So I'm going to trim it to about there. So it's about a bit more than 16th, but not quite an 8th. So it literally is by eye with me here. And that'll just help the pattern continue as well. I think we need a little bit more off. And it's going to stick in. No, thank goodness. Just a tiny slither again. There we go. Again, just bring in my black soot. Again, touching these pieces here. And there we have the pattern now continuing through our divide. Try and get the right place for you. There we are. So that was the trickiest piece. Everything else now, you're just measuring rectangles and make them 1/4 of an inch less. So this is why I'm not going to give you measurements for this, because if this is a little bit off and things, you might just have to adjust your measurements slightly. I'm just going to close the blinds so try and get rid of the shadows. Maybe that's a little bit better. And for the lining, I'm just going to use this one here. So I'm going to cut, I've got 2 pieces here ready to go. So some of the strips were 2 inches tall, so I need them to be, oh no, that's not paper. I've only got 1 sheet here. Let's have a look. 1 3/4. Cut off the white edge. So this is now the inside. So let's have a look. I want one which is just 5 1/2, so 5 1/4. Black soot. Place it inside there. And you can see how it all just ties in nicely there. The colours match really well. It's got a nice long piece down this left hand side, so I'm just measuring from the top to where my divider ended up. So I'm going to do it just a tad over 8 1/4. Need another strip then. So 8 1/4, just a little bit. You can see I'm very specific on just make it up. Just a tad over 8 1/4. That's that long one there. Here's my Teflon tool. So what you can do, you can just press it down. There we are. Just a couple more of these strips. I think I'm going to need quite a few more, so let's cut them ready. So if there's 8 1/4 there, I think I'll need just over 8 1/4 here as well. Yes. 8 1/4, just a little bit extra. It's so much easier than going into 16ths, isn't it? So I'm keeping the smaller bits until last so I can use the offcuts. Otherwise you find you need to print off another one just for one long strip. So that's this one. And again, take the Teflon tool inside, press it down. We've got 2 little bits down here, which are going to be just under 1 3/4. Should I cut them both at the same time? 1 3/4, just underneath it. Right, so I'm going to be careful so I know which. This is the try and keep it so the top is always at the top for me. Because they're very similar in size. So you can see I've just done that little tiny one down in the corner. This box is so big it's hard to keep it in shot. So that's the top. Try and keep that along the top, so when I come to the box I know it's the top of the box. So I'm putting it into this little piece here. And I've got this bottom piece left to go. Now this should be a standard size, 7 3/4, so 7.5, because that is the width of the base. So you can see these bits were not things I could prep beforehand, because it really does depend on how accurate you have been, and it is a little bit of a change as you go type thing. And I've got one more piece up there. I want a piece which is 1 3/4. Again, it's hard to know which was the top, but I think they're both 1 3/4 this time. I'm just going to place it in there. So that's all my outer sides. Then I'm just going to do the same for the dividers. Now the dividers should be a little bit easier because we're just matting onto what we had before. So they were 1 3/4 by 8.5. So I'm going to do them 1.5 by 8.25. So let's get the 1.5 strip done first. And I know I'm going to need a few, so let's cut a couple. So they were 8.5, so I'm going to do 8.25. Move that for a second. So now these ones are a little bit thinner because those dividers were dropped a little bit. I'm still just centering them onto there. Onto these. So this you can't really push down to burnish, so I'm just using the back, using my hand on the back and my Teflon tool inside, being extra careful. And now I'm just going to do the same here, so 7 3/4. So we're not going to get it from that, so let's get another piece in. Again, 1.5. So 7 3/4 would mean I now want this at 7.5. And then the inside, as before, I'm just going to have to judge it. I'm not even using my ruler this time. Just speed things up. I just measured it by eye. Place it inside. Oh, that's one of the 2-inch ones. I wanted it 1.5. Let's just trim that quickly. I grabbed the wrong offcut. There we go. And then just one little tiny bit left. I'll just cut it there. And in we go. So that then is the inside of my box, all decorated. Just a case then of doing the covers. So this was 8.25 by 11. So I'm gonna use this newspapery one. And again, it's just gonna be 1/4 inch shorter than what we originally have. So instead of 11 tall, I'm going to do 10 3/4. And instead of 8.25, it goes down to 8. Now when I did my 8, you'll see I've got a little tiny bit of the white still showing. That's where, when we use our distress ink, it's now gone. So you can tidy up your trimming as well. Now, you may notice I haven't got anything closing mine. But if you wanted to do a closure, what you could do at this moment, before gluing this down, is you could tie or glue some ribbon behind this. So you just stick some ribbon there. And then glue this on top. Using the back of my hand here. Quite a large surface, so you can just use your hand. And then when we do the back, you would also put your ribbon there, sticking out to the left this way. And then you can just sort of tie it at the edge here. But I don't mind it just being as it is here. So I'm going to use this paper now for the cover. Again, 8 inches wide by, what was the height again? 11, wasn't it? Yes, 11. So we're going 10 3/4. There we go. Again, just taking my black soot around the edge. taking the glue to the edge, because you don't want it peeling up. And it's just a case then of doing a 1 3/4 by 10 3/4 there, and another one on the back. But I think now you get the picture. And as I said, what you can do then is take some of these cutouts and you can start decoupaging it up. If you wanted to add some more details, you can sort of just start decoupaging onto this. But there we go. There's your Wizarding School box, ready for your little pieces of whatever you want to put into it, and space for an album. So if you want to see how the album is made and some tips and techniques and sizings for making the most out of your junk journal pages, I hope you'll come back and watch that, or if you haven't had enough already, stay tuned and we'll keep going. So I'm ready now to start my album. So hopefully you've watched the box making, or even better, you've actually had a go. Or this could be a standalone project on its own. And it really is a basic format for a memory book with basic pocket pages. But what I've done is designed these especially for the Vectoria Designs paper kits for their junk journal pages. So the cover utilizes the larger pages, and the pages then the medium-sized junk journal pages. And I've also used it so I've got some photo slots so that we can still see the images, but you can just put your photos in, take them out, but each one is also a pocket for more photos or documents. Okay. So let's get going with the mini album. So for the mini album, we need 2 pieces for the cover, which are 8 1/4 by 5 3/8. And then the album spine is 8 1/4 by 1 3/4. And it's up to you now. You can do your normal paper covering one, but as you probably guessed by now, my favorite method is using the frame tape. So I'm just going to get a length of the tape, sticky side up. I'm going to take my first album, and I said I'd go through it a bit slower here than I did in the box one. I place it with the short edge or the bottom of my album cover so that it is down the center. I press it down onto the tape just to make sure I've got connection. Then I pull it nice and taut, and I bring my cover over and place it down again. Now, if it's not straight, you really don't need to worry. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just as long as you're roughly down the middle, you're doing fine. Then get some nice sharp scissors and trim it just a tiny hair's breadth back from where it ends there. Okay. Because you're going to cover that bit with more tape later on. So now I've got it touching all the way around. I'm now going to look at the corners of my album, and I'm just going to cut a little V shape towards the chipboard cover. So you can see the V I've taken out, and just make sure you take it off your scissors before you cut your next one. Otherwise it'll stick on the inside, and then you'll end up with a bump or your tape not sticking. And again, on the back, exactly the same. So do this in mid-air so that you're not flattening the tape onto the chipboard yet, because we're not quite ready for that. So just in the air, take out the V. Then up we get and press it down again. Make sure we've got it stuck onto that edge, and you'll soon start seeing that the chipboard piece starts to make an impression into the tape. So we're just going to take our finger, a little pinch in, and we're just going to start pinching on the side there, just to get it wrapped around that edge. And once it is, you just start in the middle and press down. And that way you've got a nice, smooth covering. And if you have got a bump or something, don't panic. We can use our tool later on, our Teflon tools, our scoring tools, or our bone folders, just to get it out. So I'll put some creases in there on purpose this time. I'm going to do the same here. Just work it on. Then start at the centre, especially when you've got long ones. And so you can see here where my bumps were. If I take my Teflon tool, press it down, we can iron them out. So that's how to cover that side. I'm going to do exactly the same on this side on the other three. So let's bring that spine. That album, just keeping that so it doesn't roll towards me. One, the long side, and then the short side. And just trim it off. Cut my V's, removing those notches from my scissors. So make sure you're doing this in mid-air. It's torn, and do you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's just stick it back down. This tape is so forgiving. Let's just do this long bit first, so I can show you. Can you see it tore there? But it's still covered. I just stuck it back down. It really is a brilliant method. And just iron it all down. So even though it tore, I had bumps, I've still ended up with a nicely covered album cover. Now I just need to tape the top and bottom of my spine. So I'm just cutting this, it's just a tiny bit shorter than my spine. And again, here. So you can see there's no careful measurements or anything. There we go. And then I'm just going to take some tape, which is about 1.5 inches longer top and bottom. And I'm going to place it with a sticky side up. Now this is where it's going to be slightly different to what I did earlier with the box. If you remember when we did the box, we brought that up and we butted that up. But now we want a double thickness, so we got a much looser hinge. So I'm placing my spine and matching up the corners with the cover. Now I find it easier to bring it towards me then, because I want to lift it while holding it all in place. And those two edges now are going to make connection with that tape. And I'm going to flip it over, press it down, So my spine is onto the tape. And now when I open it, I should be able to pull it apart a little bit and bring the tape nice and tightly over. And that will give me my double-spaced hinge without having to use any tools or anything. No rulers, nothing. I'm going to do the same again. Just make sure it's longer than my cover. So this time I'm going to put my spine down on it. Press it down. Find it easier again, like I said, to bring it here so I can see the corners. Now this time I got all this bit here to line it up as well. So I'm holding the spine, bringing it over, pressing it down, make sure I got contact, opening it, separating, and just bring it over. Then we're just going to tidy the inside. Now when I first started looking at albums, I did do the cardboard cover method, and I can remember doing it all and it looked fab, but within no time the cardboard joints, things had started to crack and things, and I just felt really deflated, and I never made one again. I think it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years later when I found the tape method that I really started enjoying it, because the cover is so quick and so easy and folds nicely without any cracking at all, and it's just a lovely finish. So that's our album cover done, so I can put that to one side, and let's bring our cardstock in. So I've got some 280 GSM cardstock and my trimmer to start off with. And this album has got 6 pages, so we need 6 sheets of card for that, and another sheet for the hinge system, the spine bit. So I am going to see if I can cut a few at the same time, because all my pages are the same. I'll need 12 of them, and they're going to be 8 inches tall. By 4 7/8. So there's my 5. So let's go back to 4 7/8. So the strange measurement is so that I'm making the most out of those middle-sized junk journal pages. So I grab one of them now. This is the middle-sized one with the writing on the bottom. So when I print these, I make sure I turn off the fit to page option, and then it doesn't stretch it and things to fit onto your page. So make sure you tick that off, and then these pages actually fit half of these junk journals. So we just cut these in half, and that covers our pages in one. So we'll get to that later on, but that's why normally I have much easier measurements, but that 4 7/8 is just to accommodate that. So again, I need 12 of these. So I've done 4, because I'm cutting 2 at a time here. 4 7/8, so it's just a little bit under the 5. There's another 2, another page done. Another page. 2 more. And my last ones. So that's my 12 sheets for my pages, and now it's the spine. So I'm going to cut it this way first. and I'm going to cut my cardstock at 7.5. Now if you want to slide on the pages a little bit easier, just take it back just a 16th or just a hair's breadth less than 7.5, and that'll give you just a little bit of extra manoeuvring when you're bringing them onto your page. Right, so our largest spine is going to be 2 3/4. Then the middle one is going to be 2 1/4. And my last one, the central one, is 1 3/4. And that's all my cardstock cutting done. So I'm going to bring in my scoreboard. And all the pages are exactly the same. I'm going to put it landscape. When I come up to here, so the 8-inch side is across the top, and I will score at 7.5. So every one is now going to be 7.5 inches. So you just sort of get into a rhythm with this. And as I said, this is a really basic one, but it's a great one to start with because you can just leave it plain, or if you're more advanced, you can add your own touches to it. So there we have all the pages scored a 7.5. And then with our, let's start with the thin one. With our hinges, we're going to score at 1/2 and 3/4. Okay, so down the long side, 1/2 and 3/4. We're going to turn it around and do 1/2 and 3/4 again. So what you'll have is 1, 2, 3, 4 lines quite close together in the center. And you can do the same with your middle one. 1/2 and 3/4. Flip it around. 1/2 and 3/4. And exactly the same with the last one. 1/2 and 3/4. Flip it. 1/2, 3/4. And that's the whole hinge done. Our scoreboard's done with. Right. So I'm going to go now into a momentum with my pages, because what I'm going to do, you see this is where that 1/2 inch score line is. I'm going to take some strong double-sided tape and place it between that score line and the edge of the cardstock. Don't go up to that score line. Don't go over that score line. Otherwise you're going to have adhesive exposed. So this is 3/8 of an inch score tape, so that it fits nicely inside that 1/2 inch. If you go for the 1/2 inch tape, you might find your glue or the stickiness from this shows through. Almost there. And once I've got my tape out, I think what I'll do, I'll take my spines at the same time. Oh, I've got 2 more, I thought I only had 1 more left. 1 more. we go. Just finish them down a little bit. And the same with my spines. I'm going to go between the outer score line and the edge of the cardstock. And the middle one. So that's all my taping done. Let's just burnish that tape on. Take 2 of your pages, fold it back, just burnish that edge. So this is the most basic pocket page you can do. So we've got 2, now let's again the same way, like that. So all we're going to do now is flip one of them around that way and stick them together. So you can do this in 2 ways. We can take your tape and fold it back like that. So I'll expose a little bit so you can maneuver it about and line up, because it's not sticking here, only on the left. There we are, it's in place. So I can now hold it down, peel my tape out. Again, reveal a little bit and pull it out. And that will make your pocket page. But if you find it quite hard to line up, what you can do is bring in your scoreboard. Let's fold this and burnish. Grab my second page, burnish. Now again, flip this one over so my tape is on the bottom. And if you line it up with the edge of your scoreboard, I'll keep it nice and straight. Flip it around, peel off some more. And you've got it lined up as so. So let's do the other 4. Peel it off, get a nice crisp edge. Flip it around. The end rip, so we just need to pull it up, take it off, there we are. So we've got 1, 2, 3 pocket pages. Lines over that section. Let's see if I can speed it up a little bit. Obviously take your time. The last one, I think so. there's your 6 pocket pages done. So let's get our spine sorted. Now I'm just going to take off a little bit from our spine. So I'm just going to take a little V from here to that first score line. That just means when we're bringing our papers on, it'll just slide over to get to that easier than if you're trying to go from a square edge. So again, just to go around all 4. Just a small thing. Don't need to be too heavy-handed with your V. Just a slight notch, and you'll find it'll slide on just a little bit easier. Let's just get rid of them out the way. So 6 pages and our spines. So this is going to be a double spine, which means our pages will lie a little bit flatter, which is why we've got that second score line. Now this center one can get a little bit fiddly because all the score lines are so close together, but you want to fold them in both directions to get that flexibility in the hinge. I'll bring it closer to the camera now to show you exactly what I mean. So you'll have, come this side up, a U shape, but then these ones have got a separate extra fold to make an extra hinge there. That's what makes everything lie nice and flat. Now on the back of this, that's where we're going to adhere to the other spines. So I'm going to need some tape. Now it's very thin, this one, so I'm just going to take my tape. This is why your titanium scissors is good here, because it's good with sticky surfaces. And I'm just going to place it down this edge. Okay. And we're just going to do the same with our center one. Just going to fold the 2 middle ones up, and then fold the outer ones both directions. So got the same as before. I'm just going to put a piece of tape down the center of the back, and then the last one both directions. So it folds up into that U shape we've got with our double hinge, and then put some tape on the back. Those triangles familiar. There. Right, so we've got our 3 hinges, our 6 pages, all ready to go. So I'm going to start with my hinge system. and I've got to bring back my cover as well. I'm going to peel back the backing. Because your pages are going to be attached to this, you want nice, strong adhesion. So let's add some glue. And we're just going to place this down the center of our middle one. I'm going to do the same then, take off the backing. Add the glue. And place it down the middle. So the glue is also good because it gives you some time just to move things if you need to. So not only does it add the strength, it also gives you some wiggle time. Then we're going to take the tape off the back. Now this is what we're going to attach to our chipboard, so plenty of glue this time. Let's open our album cover. We're just going to line it up in the middle here. So I've got equal distance top and bottom. I've kept it up so I can line up from my two sides and just placed it down. This glue dries clear, but you can just wipe it off and really burnish it down. You want your hinge system to be nice and strong. There you go. And normally I'd give that a little time to dry before doing this next bit, but let's keep going, is it? I'm just going to take off the tape from the first page and lean it backwards. Now, I've only got tape on one side, because if I do on both sides, it's really tricky, because it'll just start grabbing before you're ready. So add the glue just to close the back of your pocket. Open up your pocket page, slide it on from the bottom because you still get your backing on, and you're going to take it up to your score line and press it down. So not over the score line, just up to it. And that now has attached your page and the glue has sealed it so it's a closed pocket. Then you just repeat. So in the second one, let's peel it back. Add some glue all the way down the back of your hinge. Take a pocket page. So this is where those V's help it slide on. We're going to push it on up to that score line, but not crossing it, and taking it off. And because you haven't crossed that score line, it folds both directions and then lies flat. The third one, I should have taken it all off, but hey, never mind. I was trying to speed up a bit there and forgot to leave it on. Just need to be a little bit more careful this time. So by keeping the front of the page up, it's not touching. There, and now I'm ready. So it didn't matter too much. So there's those three. Just turn it around and repeat. So fold it back. Glue to seal it shut. Pocket page on. Up to the score line and press it down. Fold it back, glue to seal. And oh, nearly took it all off again. I nearly forgot to seal the back. There we go. And here we are. You've now got your book with 6 pages ready to decorate. So as I said, each one is a pocket for sliding extra things in. And we're going to get our junk journal pages. So I'm using 2 of our junk journal pages here. So the medium ones and the large ones. Just remember when you're printing these to make sure the fit to page is switched off. And then we're just going to take scissors. We're going to cut our medium one. This is going to cover our pages. So we've got 6 pages in total. So you need to pick 6 of these. Now I like this one because of the magical powers logo at the top. I'm going to use that on the inside of my original one. And that's all I'm going to do then is fold it to find my halfway point. Just folding it a tiny bit just to find where that halfway is. If you want, you can take your pen and mark it. Bring your trimmer in. So again, no measuring at all. Line it up. I'm going to cut it in half. So those will fit the pages. And the larger ones, which haven't got the margin, again, when you go to your print picture, just make sure you click the fit to page off. So I haven't used any digital software or altering or anything. Literally click and print. And these ones are going to fit the front cover and the inside cover. So you need 2 of these. So 6 of the medium and 2 of the large. But when you're printing your large ones, have a think of a design that will look good on the front of your album. There we go. And again, I'm going to find the halfway. Give it a little mark with a pen. Bring in the trimmer and cut in half. Take your distress ink, just go around the outside to get rid of that white core. This is optional. I think if you did do this, you will notice a difference when you come to stick them in. Because that white edge from where you just trim your paper has totally disappeared. And again on the cover. Okay, so just to speed things along, here are my other 2 covers. So that's what I've chosen to go on the outside, and these 2 are going to go on the insides. And as for my pages, where I put them, I've already cut and inked them as well. Okay. So let's bring back my original one, and you'll see I've chosen a design which sort of fills the front cover, and the inside I've just kept it quite flat. Nice place for journaling with that Magical Powers one. So let's bring this one in and let's glue. Make sure you get to the edge because you don't want your corners peeling up. And you'll see that this is just an instant cover. But there's nothing stopping you then. If you wanted to go in and start decoupaging up some bits or adding a tuck spot by putting one of the tags or some more of these images from the other printouts. Put some more tags and nameplate again. Up to you. So that's the front. This is the back. A bit flat. So as you see, I designed this so it's just literally print, cut and stick. So let's do the inside. Which way should we go? Castle on the left. So again, this is a good place if you wanted to cut one of those tags. You could just put glue and an L shape there, put it there, and you'd have a little tuck spot there. I'm keeping it simple today. So yeah, I'm showing you the basic base album. Then it's over to you then to add your own flair to it. Yeah, okay. And then you can just glue your pages on. As so. There's the first one. But when you come to the other ones with these big spaces in, you could stick them on and you've automatically got a place to put a photo. But what I like using are these dies from a company called CoolKatz, and they are photo slot dies. So if you look what it does, it cuts 4 curved corners into your paper. So your design still stays as it is, but we've got these little slots here. And then you get an extra die which cuts a square with some nice stitching on it. Now this is slightly bigger than 4x4, so it'll fit your 4x4 photos, or you can just put your photo straight in, or you can have it matted onto some black. And then the other one is for 6x4 photos. So they're called Curved Photo Slot Set 2. There's another set with smaller ones again, but these ones fit standard sized photos. And you get 3, actually. You get a 5x7, which is obviously too big for today's album. So what I've already done is with these papers, I've gone through and I've cut the slots which fit the way I think they do. These are the last 2 which I've just cut now with you. So let's take, I think, my 4x4 one under Magical Powers. I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine. I've just got a Platinum 6 here, so one of the small machines. And it's cut my 4 slots. So I could put my 6x4 there, or if I want to keep that owl, I can put my 4x4 in again, which I think I'll do this time. Yeah, so these dies are great when you've got such detailed papers because you still keep the design. But you've also got photos and you're not committing either because you can change the photos over nice and easy. So I've cut out a load of the squares and rectangles from the coordinating die because it's just going to help me stick them in. So let's go for that magical powers page as we've just done it. So these were 2 of the 4x4, so let me grab the square ones. So when I'm gluing them in, I actually stick my photo mat in. Because 1, it trains the slot to be raised, and 2, it shows me where not to put my glue. There's nothing worse than not being able to get your photo in to the slot. There we go. And I leave that photo mat in then for it to dry. So this time I'm going up so I can still see that owl. And I'm going to take the glue around the edge, avoiding those black card bits, and I'm going to glue it onto my page. Let's bring in the next 2. Got one with blue here. Have I got another blue bordered one? Yes, here we go. I think this was using a 6x4s this time. So let me put a 6x4 photo mat in. And another 6x4. And you can see how with these pages you don't really need to do much. They're so decorative already. So we've got the books, let's add the pen. Go. Just a couple more to go. Got some nice potion bottles this time. Let's go with that one. I think I got a 6x4 this time. have this one. And got another 4x4. And the last one, look at that little letter. I wonder if that's the letter inviting a certain wizard to join the wizard school. And one photo match short, so I'll just take one from my original one. And of course, you could be adding pockets and everything to your pages here now. And in the kit, you can print out some pockets which you can cut out and stick on. You can cut out mini envelopes, tags. But I wanted to show you how to take the junk journal pages and turn them into an instant album. So this will work with any of the kits from Vectoria Designs. The measurements would be the same, and you can go then further by having some inserts here. Just make sure that the inserts are, if it's 7.5, I've got a piece of black card, yes. So we were 7.5. So let's go down to 6 and 7/8. Oh, sorry, 7.5. So 7 3/8. The pages were 5 inches. So if you cut it at 5 inches, because we've got our pages stuck onto that 1/2 inch spine, what you would get is an insert which sticks out. So if you didn't want a sticking out one, just go down to 4.5. And you've got an insert to fit in there, and you can go find some of your papers. So what did we say we were? 7 3/8, so 1/4 inch back from there would be 7 1/8. And let's just trim off that little bit of white. And then we cut it down to what we say 4.5, so 4 1/4. You can then ink your edges. And there's just extra photo cards because you could keep the front like that and put something on the back, or put a white piece of cardstock or paper on the back so you can journal onto it and tell us some more about the photos and things. But yeah, there's your inserts then, you could put a little tab or something onto it so you know there's something there to pull out. Just be careful it's not sticking out of the edges, especially if you're going to put it into your box. The final little piece to do then would just be to do an 8" by 1.5" piece to stick onto the back. Let's have a look, is that going to be, no, that's not big enough. 1.5. By 8. Just ink it up. Of course, if you wanted to add some charms or something to the spine, you can. I'm not a spine decorator myself. I like to keep my covers plain. Gets a little bit boring that way. So that way. And there we have a very simple mini book, which can be a standalone project, or if you've made the Wizarding School box, you can open it up and it'll fit into that top left compartment there, and you can fill that up with some nice goodies. Okay. So thank you for watching again, and if you haven't already, head over to the Vectoria Design shop. I'll link below as well in the video, that you'll find the link, sorry, down below. And I can't wait to see your visions of this box, or what you do with Wizarding School by Vectoria Designs. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.